Alright guys, well, we took care of that pile of logs. That pile of logs is actually a small pile because I got a real big pile not too far from here that I'm drawing from. That there is going to get up here onto the Ultra, the Eastonmade Ultra. Then we'll make it into firewood and we'll stack it out in order to dry. Although we're heading into winter, so that's probably going to be next year's wood. Anyways, you saw me cut that up. Didn't really struggle that much. I had the rakers cut down pretty good, so we were making some relatively deep cuts with the Husky here. If you're wondering what this is my old tried and true. This is my old Husky 555. I'd say it's a really good size saw for firewood. This is a 60cc saw, really high revving. I've had it for a number of years now, works quite well. The only thing that I was skeptical about when buying this was it has auto tune, Husky's auto tune, which is an electronic adjustable carburetor, if I understand right. I was skeptical because if you take that ability away for me to adjust the carb, I start worrying that it might break and I can't fix it. I'll have to take it in somewhere to do so. But it hasn't broken, knock on wood. Anyways, some things you saw me using there that I've never used before include this. This is a firewood measuring tool, we'll call it. This is the Acc-U-Mark. You guys can see there, it's pretty simplistic. You've got a magnet on the end. The magnet basically goes onto the bar like so. In the middle here, you've got a carbon fiber shaft. And then on the end, you've got this aluminum circle or this disc. So I was using this today because I was starting to get to the point where my guesstimates of 16-inch lengths, which is what I prefer for my wood stove, was starting to vary a little bit. I was getting 16-inch pieces sometimes, but I was also getting all the way up to 20 inches on occasion. And sometimes those weren't fitting in my wood stove, or at least it was quite awkward. And it was certainly making my wood pile look a little lopsided. I figured now was the time we'll get consistent firewood lengths, and we'll certainly be able to make wood that'll fit in the wood stove. If you guys are selling firewood, you probably already have something like this, because if you're cutting wood that's 20 inches long and it should be 16 inches, well, you're throwing away 4 inches of the log, every log, and that's money out of your pocket. So if you're in the business, I can imagine you're going to be a little more careful with your lengths. Anyways, the Acc-U-Mark, this was the brand of wood measuring device that I got, wood measuring tool. As I said, simple construction. This one here that I used the first time around was a 16-inch length. So basically you put that onto the bar, and as you saw, I went up to the end of the log for the first time, and I touched this disc on the end of the log, and I went and made a little cut about 1 inch deep, just a little slot. Then I moved down the log, and I placed this disc into that slot, made another mark. Moved down the log, into the slot, made another mark. I went all the way down the log. I ended up having 16-inch lengths marked. Then I took this off. I went back and finished the cuts. Pretty easy. So that was my very first use. I like that. This is very, very light, but the magnet is not too strong. So I feel like if I were to, bump this or snag it, it's not going to break the shaft. The magnet will release before that, but the magnet's not too loose that it was wanting to fall off there. So I don't know what the holding strength is there, but it feels like it's good. But I ended up getting 2 of these measuring tools just for the fact that from time to time I'm going to want pieces that are not 16 inches long. Sometimes I want pieces that are a little bit longer, maybe 18 inches, sometimes a little bit shorter, because sometimes I'm going to use this firewood not in my main wood stove, but in my other wood stove, which is quite small, in the tiny house. And so I figured I'd get an adjustable one and try that out. So this is the same brand, Acc-U-Mark, you guys can see there. Same basic construction, the battery on the end, carbon fiber shaft, that aluminum disc or circle at the end. The one exception is, you guys can see we have an adjustable section in the middle. And if I'm not mistaken, this takes a 1/2 inch wrench. So I was just using my fingers to finger tighten it. So you basically loosen that off, and then this pulls up or goes down. I think the dimensions here, if I'm not mistaken, go from 12 inches at a minimum all the way up to 20 inches. So I figured that was a good length for me. Anyways, then you just tighten up that nut. And I found even just hand tightening it was tight enough to hold it. And just like before, that goes right onto the bar. Now, the only thing you do is you put it relatively centered on the bar. And I avoided putting it too far out to the tip. I've got the sprocket out there. I didn't want to impact that at all. But worked quite well. I'm pretty happy with this. What I used to use way back when, if you guys are interested, I used to use a 2x4 or a 2x2 piece of wood, probably 10 feet long or so, maybe 12, and I would mark my lengths for the firewood pieces on there. and then I would just hold it up to the log. The trouble is, if you guys see any of these logs, very few of them are straight. So what ended up happening was I'd hold it as close to the log as I could, but sometimes the piece for marking was way back here and the log was up here, and I'd be sort of guessing. So that went away pretty quick. Also, if you use the tape measure, that's fine, but my logging tape, it's good, but I find this is way faster, especially when you got firewood. The logging tape's real good when you're doing whole trees and you're making like 3 cuts, maybe 2, just for log length. So I think these will work quite well out here for getting the perfect length. Anyways, guys, that's it. What we're going to do now, I'm going to fire up the Eastonmade Ultra. We're going to finish filling up these IBC cages. You guys can see behind me here, we got a bit more wood to go back here. Might just fill this in, and then I'm going to move these IBC cages with the tractor. I got the forks on there, and then we'll call it good for today, and we'll split the rest of that another day. Here we go. All right, guys, well, we filled up 4 IBC cages. This did not take all that much time. You guys saw me there with my wood splitter behind me. The Eastonmade Ultra, this is relatively new to me. It is one heck of an addition here because this is making life a lot easier, a lot more comfortable to use. Certainly a lot faster than what I used to use, which was sort of a an old rundown wood splitter that barely ran, and if it did run, it then ran very, very slowly. So having this thing is like going from an old workhorse to a new sports car. Very thankful to have it. Anyways, that is that. We're gonna get the tractor over, move those IBC cages of wood. We'll pile them up in an open area. They'll get completely covered and disappear this winter under snow, but next spring and summer they'll start to dry, and then they'll be good to use for next winter. Very, very fortunate. I do have a bit of a stockpile of firewood, and you know, if you ever get injured or sick or who knows what, you can't split wood, it's good to be a little bit ahead. So guys, that's it for me. Do yourself a favor, if you get a chance to get out and split some wood, whether it's with an axe or maybe even a piece of equipment like that, you might want to consider doing it. There's just something about splitting wood that's super satisfying, and if you get hooked on it like I am, you'll probably never quit. Guys, you all take care out there, be well, and I'll see you next time. And one last thing, guys, I do appreciate those of you who've been supporting me with my new merch store. No pressure at all, but it is there down in the description for this video. You can get stuff like this hat there. Guys, take care. See you next time.